drew a lot, pen and ink. And so when I came to notating music, it didn't take long for me to sort of figure out that the visual aspect of the score was almost as important to me as what I thought it sounded like. And so then I've become more concerned with, well, I have some idea what I think this sounds like, but I'm more interested in what the performer thinks this sounds like. Toward the end of my college days, when I was starting to get a hang of composing, and when I say it was quick that I figured out that the visual was important to me. Like, I really liked the idea of getting out the pens and writing. It's not to say that my stuff back then looked good at all. I mean, it looked terrible, but I liked that, sitting down and carefully working things out. And so I remember really clearly, you know, I guess I was probably about 20 years old or something, standing at the beach in Ocean City, standing there and thinking, like, you know, I had started to improvise. I've been playing with, like, John Diker's the first person I improvised with. Sort of, I knew who he was. I knew his music. He called me up one day and he's like, "You want to play drums in my band?" I was like, "Really? Okay." So he was sort of a mentor. And if you know his playing, bass clarinet playing particularly, it's ridiculous. So I was thinking about, how can I write music for John? And in some ways, I guess maybe I was too lazy to sort of really explore notating all the extended technique. On the other hand, he's really reluctant and not very confident about explaining what he's doing. He's like, "I don't know, I just do this. It just happens," right? So I would push him, like, how do you get that multiphonic? How do you do that? What are you doing right there? And I could never get any answers from him. So I was just like, how do I write this music for instruments like that? Because there's this sound world that I'm really familiar with that I don't quite know how to express on paper, right? So I can deal with the rhythms, the pitches, dynamics, but beyond that, like a feel or these just like super subtle changes in timbre and technique that come out of a jazz tradition, right? I was sitting on the beach, kind of like, or standing on the beach in the water, waves crashing on me, going, "I got to figure this out." And it took me 10 years, I think, no, maybe more. But I remember when I finally started book, saying, this is what I was thinking about back then, because it gave this information that pushed the improvisers into their, well, I don't know, it doesn't make put everybody in their comfort zone, but it puts them on pins and needles about, like, what the notation says, and then, you know, hopefully the performer looks at it and says, well, this is pushing me in this direction, and I know my instrument and I know my playing. And I was really interested in the personality of the performers and their backgrounds and things like that. And I realized this was that music I was thinking about. Like, it was a flash. So it took a while to get there, but that was in the back of my mind for a long time. The period or the trajectory of investigation that book came out of, I've spent a lot of time playing things really badly on vibraphone, Bach and whatever else. And there was something beautiful in this hyper slowed down versions of Bach chorales. Just, you know, 3 a.m, playing vibraphone really quietly in my apartment and just like listening to that stuff. And it was like, well, this isn't what this is supposed to sound like, but yet here's what it sounds like now. And I liked that idea. And then so I started, you know, going and finding, you know, just picking up anything I could and playing it on vibraphone and sort of having to make these improvised sort of on-the-spot arrangements. And that brought me back to the idea of opening up the notation and the idea that, you know, once something's on paper, you know, no one can say you can or can't do that with, you can't play it this way or that way, you know, in the privacy of your own home or whatever. I'm also a big fan of hip hop music, and there's sampling, taking this thing and turning it into that thing. You know, I've always thought that that was a beautiful way to work, and I think with music, why not? So I would have like a Scriabin sonata, you know, some Richard Barrett and some Bach on the music stand at once, and I would sort of play between the pages on the vibraphone, mixing them all together. And I thought, well, I want to write a piece of music that it wasn't a direct thought, but to boil it down, I want to write a piece of music that people feel okay doing this with. I was once told that not giving instructions was oppressive, and I thought that was kind of funny. I understood the point, because the performer has this anxiety of the composer looking over, going, "Oh, you did that wrong, you missed that," you know. And I didn't know how to express that. Once I finished the piece, you know, I felt like I was giving it over. Like for a long time I toyed with not putting my name on the thing and just putting it on the internet and saying, here's this thing, and hoping that it sort of washed around and no one worried about, well, am I doing this right or not? Because, you know, the idea of, you know, liberating the composer from the work was a big part of it, you know. Not exactly in the Cagean sense, but in a closely related sense. You know, I like to take ownership of the fact that I made the score, but then I want the performers to take ownership of how it sounds. Another thing I say to performers is, you know, I could tell you some things, but I'm hoping you have better ideas about how to play this than I do, you know, because mine are pretty limited.